Munke presents a deep dive of elusive drugs. Today's drug is called Scopolamine, or Devil's Breath. No, not that Devil's Breath, this one. Scopolamine is classified as a deliriant, which is a subclass of hallucinogenic. Deliriants induce delirium. Shocker, I know. Delirium is a state of mental confusion and altered consciousness. When in this state, people lose track of time and have very vivid hallucinations. When taking high doses of deliriants, people can forget that they ever took anything, so this causes them to truly believe that these hallucinations are actually real. If that wasn't scary enough, people even forget who they are while high on deliriants. People will look in the mirror and get shocked when they see their reflection, because they think a random person has either just appeared or has broken into their house. Devil's Breath is derived from a nightshade plant, more specifically the borachio tree, which is only found in Colombia. It is in the same family as datura, which is basically schizophrenia in a seed. Now, let's talk about the effects of Devil's Breath. This drug is known for inducing a trance-like state. It's almost like the person turns into a living zombie. Confusion, docility, and an inability to form new memories, also known as anterograde amnesia, are just some of the effects of the drug. Some physical effects include dry mouth, dilated pupils, rapid heart rate, and respiratory depression. Now, when I said that this drug is known for its ability to induce a trance-like state, I wasn't lying. The reason why it's called Devil's Breath is because criminals like to use this drug to put victims in a highly docile trance. In Colombia, over 50,000 people are drugged and used in malicious ways every year. Victims under the influence of Devil's Breath make it almost effortless for criminals to rob, kidnap, and even sexually assault these people, since they pretty much comply to it. Criminals have even used the drug to make innocent people assist them in crimes. There have been reports of victims driving criminals to ATMs and even just letting them inside their house. Another reason for criminals to use this drug is it's very easy to administer covertly. It is odorless, tasteless, and effective in tiny doses. It can be absorbed through skin contact and inhalation. It's very uncommon for people to use recreationally, but I was still able to find some trip reports on scopolamine, so let's read them together. Like LSD and PCP mixed with insanity. This experience was so radical, I can still remember it vividly after 30 years. My friends came up on a pallet load of expired drugs from a hospital headed for the hazmat dump site. We went through the hard stuff. With a rip-roaring drug habit, I started digging through all the little bottles of unknown stuff. That's when I came across the vial of pure scopolamine, hydrobromide, used for compounding and formulation. The drug reference said it was used in over-the-counter sleep tablets and needed some sleep bad. I swallowed about half a grain and injected half grain. Big mistake. It was about 9 p.m. and I don't remember much of the next 12 hours. My stepson said I crawled around all night eating lint balls off the shag carpet and mumbled to myself. At times I felt perfect, except I couldn't walk, and the hallucinations were so vivid I thought they were real. I was so bad, my stepson helped me get to a payphone to call the ambulance, but the numbers on the phone were backward, like in Russian. The fire department came and took me to the ER. My body was like on a PCP overdose, and I could not even stay on the exam bed, but kept sliding off onto the floor. It was funny because I would go from a clear mind to talking to people who weren't not there. They shot me with Valium 3 times to no effect. My heart rate was over 200 and my mouth was so dry I could not talk. The cops came, accused me of resisting arrest, and put me in a chokehold. After beating my butt right in front of the nurses, they took me to jail and tossed me into the rubber room. There I kept seeing a detective shove his handgun into the cell and pull the trigger. Click, but no shot. He would laugh and pull his hand out. This happened over and over. Then I saw my grandma get thrown in the bullpen right across the hall. I saw the thugs rape her over and over. I was sure I could knock down the cell door and slammed into it with all my weight over and over. I was screaming I would kill those punks, and they were all pointing and laughing at me. It was 12 a.m. the second night. The watch commander opened the cell to check on me at a change of shift. I leapt from flat on my back like a cat and bit him so hard he had to go to work comp, then retire. After that, they called me the biter. All the time I was in the padded cell, I thought I saw pills all over the floor. I kept eating the pills, hoping to come down. I thought there was a bowl of Valiums in the middle. It was really the crap hole in the rubber room. Gross. They took me upstairs the third day to a medical unit. I thought I had a long sword stuck down my pant leg. I was walking with a stiff leg, and the cops kept asking why I was walking funny. Over the next 12 hours, my toilet was singing doo-wop. My towel was Popeye's Kid Sweet Pea swinging around the bars, and I was stuck in a standoff between the Hells Angels and the Black Panthers. I must have killed a dozen men with my sword. The third night, I was afraid to move because I would set off a war, and I was right in the line of fire. I lay frozen for at least 10 hours. The Black Panthers kept throwing dead cats into my cell. The fourth morning, I had to go to court, so mental health interviewed me. I denied taking any illicit drug, knew who was president, what day it was, and where I was. I told them everything was fine, except they kept throwing dead cats into my cell. When I got back to my cell, I noticed I could see more clearly, was able to shave, and went to court. I mustered every ounce of strength and told the judge it was a big mistake. My wife had filed a police brutality report over the hospital incident, and they let me go. It took over a week and a lot of downers for it to wear off completely. I know what it is to be insane and come back. Don't recommend it. Unexpected intensity. It was the summer of going from grade 9 to high school. By this time, I had been smoking weed steadily for 2 years, tried various types of opiates and hallucinogenic, and I'd formed a borderline addiction with both prescription amphetamines and benzodiazepines. On this particular day, I'd been taking 6 milligrams lectopams all day, and was lucky enough to score some 50 milligram Demerol. My girlfriend at the time had stolen a ring from another girl and wanted me to sell it for any type of drug. Hood rat activity. I left the remainder of my pills with my friend Joey and went to my usual weed shop to sell the ring when my dealer informed me of these pills she had. She said her boyfriend took 2 and felt like he was on acid, and her brother took 3 and was talking to people who weren't there. I was very interested and zealous as I was intoxicated, self-destructive 14-year-old. I had no idea what I was getting into. She accepted the stolen ring and gave me an unlabeled bottle of 14 pills. She said she obtained from a friend who stole them from her dad, who has Parkinson's disease. She warned me not to take more than 3. I walked back up to where my friends and girlfriend were after taking 3 pills. I discovered that Joey had eaten the rest of my demis and Lex, so I got mad and swallowed 4 more pills. My girlfriend took 3. She complained that I was greedy, and I was. We all went to Erica's house. My girlfriend left, so I started hitting on Erica, and that's when it hit me. It felt so indescribably weird. It was as if nothing was real, and I began to forget who I and everybody around me was. I remember looking at the ceiling, and it started bubbling and getting mad at me, although it was pleasant. I remember seeing some very real hallucinations and feeling intensely energized and happy. From Erica's, I blacked out until I got home. My brother's friends found me in the woods. I was conscious upon their arrival, but collapsed in mid-discussion. They brought me home. I remember a little about coming home. It was a familiar place, but a new type of magical presence was animating it. At this point, I had forgotten I took the drug, and I went to my room to sit on the couch. I don't have a couch in my room. While I was sitting there, it was actually my stereo. I remember lighting up a joint after cigarette after joint after cigarette and having a great old time talking to random strangers at a very social and easygoing party. I don't smoke cigarettes, I didn't have any weed, and the only people who came into my room that night were my parents and brother telling me to shut the fuck up and go to bed. It took them a while to figure out that I was too fucked up not to be in a hospital. They drove me down, and apparently the whole way there, I thought we were riding some type of laser train, but I really don't recall anything of the sort. When I got there, I got really violent with the nurses, so they strapped me to the bed, and the first 24 hours after being admitted to intensive care, I can't remember at all. The next 2 days I remember vividly, accompanied with memories of outrageous things like talking snakes calling me names. Serious delirium began to subside after about 4 days. I can't quite remember the order of trip experience or all of them, but I can tell you the ones that I remember most clearly. My family came to stay with me pretty much all throughout this because the doctors weren't certain if I was going to die or not. I saw my baby sister sit up in her cradle and shoot lasers into the air. I got into a very heated argument with a cardboard smiley face son on the wall. At one point, all of my family was standing around me, asked me who they were, and all I knew was my father's name, but I couldn't remember that he was my father. My dad took me into a private room to videotape me so I could later witness my own behavior. This footage is the most embarrassing thing ever. It showed me, in just a hospital gown, smoking a joint that didn't exist. I passed into the camera. Dad declined my offer. I then commenced picking imaginary bugs off the wall. I thought I found an escape door, so I ran full throttle into this wall and fell back on my gown, lifted up, and my genitals exposed. The camera shuts off. The most intense and clear memory I have of this is when I thought my night nurse was someone I fought earlier on that school year, but befriended afterwards, and I was telling him to undo my straps. I kept asking him, and he kept declining, and I didn't know why, so I got really pissed off and started yelling. When I started coming down, it was the 4th day, and I realized where and who I was, and I felt like the biggest idiot in the world. I didn't remember anything at first, but as time went on and my family told stories, some of it came back. I did some research and found out that scopolamine is used in Parkinson's disease treatment, a drug found in common plants most abundant in seeds of Datura straminora and totally legal. And at relative low doses is a powerful psychedelic. The doctors did identify the Valium and morphine-like substances in my blood, but could not identify the third chemical, probably because it wasn't commonly known for abuse and they didn't test for it. This is 4 years later, and after trying multiple potencies of acid, all the aforementioned drugs plus legal ones like nitrous oxide, morning glory, and ethyl ether extract, and I've even since overcome a full-blown crack addiction lasting months, and I've never felt anything more powerful than this drug. This is strictly for people who can handle losing total contact with earthly boundaries and personal identity. This entire experience heightened my awareness of family frailty, and since then, every hallucinogenic trip I've embarked on has been dreadfully frightening, except with mushrooms. I now stick with depressants and weed. I would never take this drug again, and if you're going to, I would recommend you use the Datura plant material and not the refined medical stuff. Don't overdo it. In fact, underdo it at first. Have 2 or 3 of your friends stay sober or just smoke weed, and be ready to watch you trip for at least 24 hours. So this is what dementia feels like. Relaxed, no pressing concerns. My mood I described as my usual upbeat and contented feeling in that period of my life. The setting was my home, so I felt comfortable and at ease. I was on my own and expecting no interruptions or people dropping around. It was 11 p.m. on a weekend, summertime, so the weather was warm, calm, and usual for this part of Australia at this time of the year. To summarize, I felt safe and secure, no concerns, comfortable. During that period of my life, I was not taking any other medications, supplements, or vitamins, and had not for years prior. I was, however, a little bored, which may help explain why I decided it was a good idea to take 30 milligrams of scopolamine and 1,000 milligrams of type-N-hydramine, which is Benadryl. In explaining my experience, it gets really challenging, as the concept of time kinda lost any meaning to me. 1 second may as well have been 1 hour. The terms of time and the passing of time were absolutely meaningless to me at this point. Another difficulty in trying to describe my experience was the blackouts. There are periods that I cannot account for, that I have zero recollection of. Therefore, rather than trying to guess what I may have done or felt during these blackout periods, I'll just type what I definitely know happened. So in these blackout periods, the only thing that I know for certain was that I didn't know. Thus, I'll leave those periods blank. I had not taken scopolamine or diphenhydramine for many years, and never in combination or at these doses, nor had I taken any other drug or supplement that day or a month prior. I took the lot orally with water, and sat in my recliner waiting to see what might happen. 15 minutes after taken, beginning to feel a haziness, like a wavy dullness within my consciousness, nothing crazy or alarming. 45 minutes later, the hazy feeling has intensified and is continuing to intensify at an accelerating rate, not feeling any alarm or concern. 60 minutes after taking, I could barely form a thought. My brain feels like it's wrapped in bubble wrap, and I had to fight my way to get out to think or speak. I began feeling an urgent need to think about something. Perhaps a thought like, where's my cell phone? I then stand up, and after taking 2 or 3 steps, I would wonder where it is I'm walking to, and why the hell I'm walking there in the first place. So I'd go back and sit down, only to do the same thing all over again, and this repeated over and over. 75 minutes after taking, I could no longer form coherent thoughts whatsoever. It was like a jumbled mix of thoughts and words in my mind that made no sense. Yet somehow, I felt there was something I urgently needed to do, but just couldn't remember what it was. It felt just like when one struggles to recall something and can't. Yet it felt like it was on the tip of my tongue. I don't recall feelings of fear or alarm. In fact, I don't recall feeling anything at all. Now, that didn't mean that I felt good, bad, or anything else. It means that the thought of feeling just didn't even enter my consciousness. Approximately 180 minutes after taking, it feels like I basically just arrived on the planet, as in just born, with no thoughts of before this moment even existing. Why I should be where I am, or what I'm trying to do. I came out at blackout walking down a hallway, like literally, as in 1 second there is nothing, then bam, here I am, walking along a highway, wearing nothing but board shorts and socks, no shoes. Even though I was likely just a mile or so from my house, I was completely lost, both geographically and mentally. I walked aimlessly for what seemed like hours, but I could not find my home. I remember feeling sad and anxious, and hopeless that I couldn't find my way home. And for periods, I recall thinking that this is forever, and I will be lost forever. At this point, I was still unable to form coherent thoughts, and felt very lost. For a while, I intermittently disappeared back into the unconscious blackness, and then reappear for a moment. Approximately 2:40 minutes after taking, I finally found my street, by accident, and then my home. I recall an overwhelming sense of, finally I'm safe again. After this, I pretty much just sat on the lounge and waited for the effects to wear off. There was occasional wall-breathing visuals, but they were minor and intermittent. I don't recall any auditory hallucinations. There was no nausea or vomiting, no euphoria, no headaches, GI distress, or other symptoms experienced. I did, however, experience dry mouth, temporary urine retention, blurred vision, and confusion. Initially, I felt pronounced sedation, but either that wore off or I just forgot about it. All of these side effects are typical in anti-chlorogenics. In essence, this is absolutely not something I would do again, nor would I recommend others to try it out. If I were ever curious about what dementia felt like from the perspective of the subject, then this is, I imagine, would come close. All that being said, I'd still not recommend this combination to anyone. Alright, that's the video, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed. This was another very cool thing to look up, find some information about, and I really like making these videos, so yeah, leave a like, comment, subscribe if, you want me to keep making these, and see you in the next one. Peace out.